You're listening to The Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
New album Rise and Fall available now. Scotty McCreery Live.
The Gary Harris Show. You see him host Tider Insider TV, Crimson Tide Kickoff, play-by-play for Alabama sports, and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for The Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
And good morning, everybody, and welcome into the Gary Harris Show. It is Tuesday, October 15th, 2024. Boy, time just keeps on slipping on by. I tell you what, it's already mid-October. We're only a couple of weeks away from Halloween, and my goodness, it'll be here before you know it. What is it, 16 days from Halloween, I think? Yep. So, my gosh. But listen, woke up this morning with actually a 10 of fall in the air. I mean, you really can feel it a little bit this morning, and this week, I think we're going to get a dose of it. Of course, I'm now trying to pull the weather up on my phone. It won't pull up. Yeah, we only going up to 73 today. How about this, Chase? 63 for the high tomorrow, 68 on Thursday, 72 on Friday. Lows 45 tonight, 41 tomorrow night. 39 on Thursday. I guess actually 45 was today, but 39 on Thursday. And so we're going to get a dose of fall, and I'm all for it. The only thing that I wish we would get as well, because we need it badly, and I'm looking at the forecast, and all I see are little sunshine deals, is we need a little bit of rain. But not on Saturday in East Tennessee. I'm not saying that, but overall, we need a little bit of rain. We need some moisture. It's very, very dry. So be careful, particularly if you're burning off brush or any of that type of stuff. But anyway, let's get to the show. I'm Gary Harris, Chase Brumfeld alongside manning the controls, taking your phone calls on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline at 205-342-9904. We got a good show on tap for you today, and I'll run it down in just a second. But first, I need to tell you, as always, this hour of the Gary Harris Show being brought to you by member-owned and not-for-profit Alabama Credit Union. It's just a better way of banking. I encourage you to find out all about it at alabamacu.com. That's Alabama Credit Union, loans for real life. And let me say this real quick. I ran into Steve Swafford yesterday evening down at Billy's and had dinner with him, the CEO. Man, just what an incredible guy. When you've got a leader like that, believe me, it goes all through the organization. Just a great guy. As I said, Alabama Credit Union, loans for real life. Some rules and restrictions do apply. See if you're eligible for membership, then join today and feel good about your money. And put a little extra change in your pocket. All right, here's the lineup for today. The Rocket Man, Rudy Arman, 977 ESPN Radio in Huntsville, will join us to talk some ball at 9:30 this morning. Of course, he co-hosts Talking Ball at 977 ESPN Radio with Scott Tyson. Then at 10:15, the Tennessee Titans report with Kayla Anderson and Chase, the Titans, I tell you, they have really gotten good at snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. I mean, they're a team that's got one win, but they should have at least 3 wins, maybe 4. But it's just, we're seeing it in college football. We're seeing it in NFL football. A big difference in these teams a lot of times is just who closes out the games. Most of these games are close. They come down to a play or two. If you make those plays, you've got a good record. If you don't make those plays, you don't have a good record. It's not like most of these teams are going out and getting throttled. It's like in that game last night with the Jets and the Bills. The Jets had every opportunity to win that game. Every opportunity. They missed field goals. They had a touchdown called back for a holding penalty. They just made so many mistakes, and they wound up losing to the Bills by 3 points, 23-20. It's almost like football has become, there's so much parity both in college and in the NFL that it's going to come down to just a few plays. Unfortunately for the Titans, they don't make those plays. They haven't made them, and that's why they're got one win. But we'll discuss it more with Kayla Anderson at 10:15. Your phone calls are welcome on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline at 205-342-9904, 205-342-9904. Give us a call. We'd love to hear from you this morning. Alabama football, of course, getting ready for the third Saturday in October matchup in Knoxville against Tennessee. Also, we've got sound from yesterday if we have an opportunity to get to it. It was press conference day for Alabama. Head coach Kalen DeBoer, plus the coordinators Nick Sheridan on offense and Kane Womack on defense. And we may have an opportunity to play some of that for you. But love to hear from you this morning on the program, 205-342-9904. All right, Alabama football is in a pretty good shape, despite that loss to Vanderbilt. Despite the fact that they had to hang on for dear life against South Carolina. Despite all that, they're not in a bad position. Halfway through the season, and they're 5-1 overall, and they are 2-1 in the SEC. And the second half of the season is going to decide whether or not they reach all of their goals. It's just that simple. They're right where they need to be. Rather be 6-0 and 3-0, sure, but they're in good shape. Can they finish out the season? Schedule-wise, I think the second half of the schedule is tougher than the first half, even though Alabama had to play Georgia in the first half. Even though they lost to Vanderbilt, I still say that this 6-game stretch, beginning with the game at Tennessee this Saturday, then the home game against Missouri, then the bye for Halloween, then the game at LSU, then the home game against Mercer, but then at Oklahoma, and then home for the Iron Bowl. I think that 6-game stretch is tougher than the first 6-game stretch. Not by a lot, but on paper, I think the last 6 games are a little bit tougher, particularly when you could factor in you've got a late season trip to Norman. I know Oklahoma's not a great team, but by that point in the time, their quarterback's going to be much more experienced. They're going to have some of those receivers back. It could possibly be cold. Obviously, the trip to LSU, the trip to Tennessee, really tough games. So that's the way I see it. All right, I'll break down the schedule even more, and we'll talk more Alabama football right now. I'm sure that's what Jim wants to talk about. Let's jump out on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline. Good morning, Jim.
Hey, no, I got something else.
Okay.
How long till the NCAA makes a rule how short your pants can be? Because some of them's got players now that look like the old gym shorts used to wear. They're so short. And I thought you had to have knee pads.
Well, I think what happened was for a while they were trying to enforce the knee pad rule, and they were having a hard time with it. And players, I think, complained that they felt restricted, and I think a lot of them felt like that, and I think this was something they said to their coaches and their trainers, was they felt like knee pads didn't help them with injuries at all. And so you have gotten to a point now where most of them aren't even wearing them. So I don't know the answer to your question. I will say this. If the players give input and they don't want to wear them, what can you do? They weren't going by the knee pad rule to begin with.
Ridiculous out there. Yeah, some of them at least make their pants a certain length. Now they look like shorts on some of them players.
Yeah, they do.
There.
But listen, man, it's a player's game. If that's what I know you're saying, well, make them wear it. But what if they don't want to wear them? What if they don't want to wear longer pants? What if they want to wear shorts? I don't know. I don't know. In this day and age, if the players rise up and say this is what we want, it's hard to tell them not to. So to answer your question, I don't know. I don't know the answer. I don't know if they're going to make them start wearing the longer pants that like they used to wear that came down fully over the knee. But that's the style, and that's what they like.
Yeah, but if you got an NIL deal for $10,000 a game, whatever, and you get suspended because you won't wear the required pants, you don't get paid that week.
Yeah, well, like I said, though, I don't know that those are the required pants now because nobody's wearing them.
Hey, did you watch any of that Penn State USC game?
I didn't see. Oh, I saw were the highlights. I didn't see one minute of live action.
Well, did you read about it? So the game's tied at the 2-minute warning. USC has the ball on their own 37, all 3 timeouts left. So it's tied up.
Mm-hmm.
So they moved the ball to the Penn State 45-yard line.
Mm-hmm.
They're in formation to snap it. There's only 14 seconds left.
Mm-hmm.
Penn State calls a defensive timeout on 3rd and 6. But my question is how much do they pay the USC coach to run the clock all the way from 2 minutes to 14 seconds and only pick up 18 yards? All you need is a field goal to win. And on 3rd and 6, the defense finally calls timeout with 14 seconds left. And you're not even in field goal range yet. I mean, what was he thinking?
I don't know. I didn't see it, but I know they're paying him a lot. To answer your question, Jim, they're paying Lincoln Riley's one of the highest paid coaches in college football. I have seen so many weird coaching decisions this year. Barry and I were talking about it when we were exchanging from his show to my show. The game is just so different just in the last few years. And the way they manipulate the time, how hard it is to close out games, coaches going for it like Josh Heupel did on his own 9-yard line on 4th down in the first half. I mean, it's just the way people coach now is just so different than the way they used to coach. Nothing surprises me, and I can't figure out. I didn't watch the game you were talking about. I'm still trying to figure out why Alabama took a timeout with 10 seconds to go in the first half, where they were at, with where they were on the field. And got the ball intercepted. I see a lot. I didn't see that particular game, but I see a lot of weird time management issues, man. I really do.
Yeah, well, I heard you. I agree with you. Normally, when you're talking about when Bama scored that touchdown, all the guy had to do is take a knee or something like that. Well, to defend him, and that's the way I usually think, but it happened, he's got to concentrate to begin with, make sure he catches the ball,
Mm-hmm.
And he was pretty, his momentum, he was pretty close to the goal line.
Yes.
So I kind of excuse him on that, even though I think
I'm with you. I kind of do the same thing. I thought the same thing. It's easy for me to sit here. What probably should have been done is in the huddle is just told specifically, if you get the first down, don't score. But at the same time, you shouldn't have to worry. If you score with a minute and something to go and the other team has no timeouts, you shouldn't have to worry about them coming back down and scoring anyway. So, but they did because Alabama, flat out just let them go right down the field with no timeouts. But yeah, when he scored that touchdown, the game should have been over anyway. But the way this defense plays, sometimes there's no lead seems to be safe anymore.
Yeah, and let me one more thing. Did you watch the game last night at the end? Jets?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, they got the new kickoff rule,
Mm-hmm.
and when the Bills kicked that field goal, Jets player got an unsportsmanlike conduct, and really it's a meaningless penalty because it doesn't, with the new kickoff rule, it doesn't help the Bills at all. So what I'd like to see them change the rule to is when you have a penalty like that on a field goal score, is that if you say you kick it through the end zone, instead of the team getting it on 30, maybe on the 20 or 15 or 20, something like that, give them some kind of penalty for committing a foul, because it doesn't really hurt them to do unsportsman now.
Yeah.
Because it gave Buffalo no advantage to kick off from the 50.
You're right. Very good point. Very good point.
All right, man. Y'all have a good day.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. I wish they'd tweak that whole kickoff thing anyway. I don't like it. All right, 9:16 here on the Gary Harris Show. We're going to take a time out. Phone lines are open in the next segment, 205-342-9904. We'll be right back with more on Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC, your home for Alabama sports.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa thread.
Good Tuesday morning. Shelton State Community College is now a regional automotive technician training center for Honda. The designation comes after an agreement was signed between the Tuscaloosa School and America Honda Manufacturing. Graduates can become Honda and Acura certified technicians. Lincoln in East Alabama is home to a Honda manufacturer.
Held at Rise, 600 Johnny Stallings Drive from 5 to 8 p.m. on Friday, October 27th. Tickets can be purchased in advance for $10. The event continues with free admission from 8 to 11 a.m. on Saturday, October 28th.
As much as Innisfree has evolved, it will always be that place to escape and have a good time. Whether it's for a game day weekend, to reminisce on college days, or to create new memories, if you're looking for a good time, there's only one thing to do. Head to the Free at 1925 University Boulevard. And don't forget about the Lucky Lunch Meat and 3 special Monday.
Or enjoy free shipping shipping to your home on purchases over $25. Your new Academy Sports and Outdoor store is located at 4610 U.S. Highway 280 in Birmingham.
Since 2011, Billy's Sports Grill, located on Main Avenue in historic downtown Northport, has been serving their legendary signature chicken sandwich, award-winning wings, and handcrafted cocktails. Billy's is also the spot to watch all your favorite sporting events with big screen, high-definition televisions, both dining rooms, at the bar, and outside on the beautiful patio. Come by and say hello to Kim and Lisa, the Billy's Management Dream Team. Billy's, good food, good friends, and good time.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
A beautiful fall day today. The sky's sunny, the high 69. Clear, very cool tonight, the low 41. For tomorrow, sunny with a high at 62. And Thursday, a sunny day. We'll probably have some frost early Thursday morning. The high Thursday afternoon, 67. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 56 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
You're listening to The Gary Harris Show.
Goal line in, touchdown, Alabama!
On your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9. And streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 9:20. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show. I bounced back a little bit on my SEC picks last week, and let me make sure that I'm doing this right. I'm going to go through them real quick, and then we'll get to some phone calls. I had South Carolina plus 21. That's a win. I had UMass plus 27. That was a loss. I had Oklahoma plus 14.5. That was a loss. But I had Mississippi State. And I really thought this was a missed line. Plus 34. That was a win. I had Florida plus 15. That was a win. I had LSU plus whatever they were. They won the game outright. So plus 3.5. That was a win. And I had Vandy plus whatever they were getting, and they won outright. So I bounced back and went 5-2 last week, Chase, after that 1-5 week. So that helps my feelings a little bit. So if you rode with me last week, you got paid off. And should have been 6-1. I don't know why I took UMass, but I did. I don't regret taking Oklahoma. I thought their defense would keep them in the game. All right, we got Philip, and then we got RV out on the hotline. Good morning, Philip.
Good morning, Gary. In light of last week's decision by the NCAA to eliminate the national letter of intent, Gary, do you foresee the next change in that being that pretty soon prospects will be able to sign before the December signing period? Do you think that might occur? I kind of think that might be the next thing that might happen.
I don't know. You know, somebody called in last week, Philip, about the same thing and I said probably I need to read up on all this more. I don't know, man. I don't know what's going to happen with anything. I really don't. I'm not, if I knew, I thought I knew, I would tell you. And I hate to, you call me, ask me a question, and I say, I don't know. That sounds bad on a sports talk show host, but I don't know. I don't know what, I don't even really understand all of the stuff that's happening. It's happened so fast. And now they're saying they're doing away with the letters of intent. And, seems almost like you're right. If you're not going to be a letter of intent, can you just sign anytime you want, whatever the contract is? And I don't even know exactly what they're going to be signing if there's no letter of intent. As I said last week when somebody called, and I need to really read up on this, I don't really understand how this is going to work. I don't.
Mm-hmm. Well, they would be signing their financial aid agreement, and it is true
but
that
the financial aid agreement is going to be different for different players, I'm assuming, because
that's right. That's why I'm thinking, is it that big of a deal to have it all on a certain day at this time? Because some kids may get it hammered out 3 weeks earlier, and if you feel like you got a chance to sign them, then I would imagine that would be the most expedient thing and most streamlined thing to do is go ahead and get it done, because they are increasing the number of scholarships across the board, right?
Yeah, that's another thing that they put out there, and it going to be a bunch more scholarships in all the sports. So, yeah.
Yeah,
but I tell you what I'd like for you to do, because this interests you. I would love for you to read up on it, research it for me, and then call me back this week. Yeah. And I'm serious. Yeah. And then call me back and tell me what you find out and how exactly you think it's going to work, because I don't know.
Yeah, I'll try my best to do that, Gary. It is interesting because I think that's going to be a monumental shift in the way things are done. Is Coach X, whether it's Sarkisian or Kelly or whoever, if they feel like they can streamline their process for the good of their school and the good of that prospect, and they can sign them, and that prospect's amenable to it, I wouldn't see the problem.
I'm with you. Well, work on that for me and put together kind of a summation of it all, and call me back in a day or two and let me know what you find out.
All right, dude. Have a great day.
Thank you, Philip. I'd appreciate that, because I'm not trying to avoid the legwork myself, but I do have a lot going on, and it'd be nice if Philip or somebody that is interested by that would find the info for me. All right, let's get to RV. Hey, RV, what's going on?
Hey, Gary. Last week it was Joel Klatt that made the comment that Alabama reminded him a lot of Lincoln Riley's teams.
I heard that.
Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, where the emphasis is on the offense and very little emphasis on the defense. And you're very alarming to watch Alabama's football team the last 2.5 weeks as far as defense, because no lead seems to be very safe in that game. What do you think about that? As far as we know that DeBoer is more of an offensive-minded coach than defense, but I still think you got to have a really good defensive team to win in the SEC. I mean, I don't think that's changed. What do you think about that?
I agree with you, and I don't think Alabama is. I agree with half of his comment in that maybe it appears that way because they've struggled lately getting off the field on defense, but I don't think that that's the way they're trying to do it here. I don't think that they're saying – DeBoer and them are saying, guys, on offense, let's just score a bunch of points because we're not going to worry about how many points we give up. I don't think that that's the case at all. I think the emphasis is on playing good defense. Now, you got to still go out and do it. So I don't think he's wrong in the way that they've looked the last few weeks with the inability to get stops on defense. But I don't think that that's the way they want to build the program here. So I think
but on offense, I think on the other side of the ball, we've got to do more of the running game. We've got to use up more of the clock. We've got to keep our defense off the field right now as much as possible. And part of that's ball control on offense, and we have just not been using a lot of clock.
Yes and no. I mean, I still think the offense's first goal is to score, however you got to do that. And if a guy, you make a big play, and the guy's behind the defense, you can't expect him to fall down just so you can run some more clock. I agree with you. I'd like to see the running game get going with the backs more and get in a rhythm. And if that's part of the offense and you're in a rhythm like that, but if you're struggling to run the ball too, last thing I want to see is 2nd and 9 every time too, RV. I mean, So again, I'm kind of hedging on you here a little bit. I'd like to see him control the football better. I'd like to see him make first downs running the ball, but I don't want to see him in 2nd down and 3rd and 8 all day either. What I mean by that is, if you're running the ball and you're not getting anything on it, why would you keep running it? I mean, just because, I want to run the ball so we can take more time off the clock. I don't understand that thinking. I'm not saying you're saying that, but I've heard some people say that. Well, you got to run the ball. Well, you got to run the ball if you can run the ball. And maybe they can run it better than they've run it, and I hope so. But if they're not running it successfully, and you just turn around and punting every 3rd down or every 3 downs, I don't get that. So, and as far as the defense, I'm with you. I know what you're saying, because I hate to see these teams grind out these 14 and 15 play yard drives against Alabama. I hate it. I know what you're saying. Alabama's had a hard time sustaining the ball for that long. If you could do it and be successful, it'd be great. But at the same time, the defense's job is to get off the field themselves. I mean, if you want to get a rest, if you're out there on defense, don't give up a 14 or 15 play drive. You know what I'm saying? Stop them. Stop them.
Yeah.
And get over there. I think, complimentary football, you're right in that they need to do a better job of it. Offense helping the defense helping the offense, and maybe we'll see it on Saturday. So,
yeah, I'm worried about this game on Saturday, though, dude.
Well, should be. I mean, it's a big game, and they're a good team, and but I believe this. I believe Alabama's capable of going up there and winning the game. So, all right, brother, got to get to one more call. Appreciate it, RV.
Okay, man.
All right, let's get to Bryce before we have to hit the break. Good morning, Bryce.
Good morning, Gary. How are you?
Doing well.
Well, it's Tennessee week. We have to focus more and concentrate on, just like the conversation said, we need to control the clock more. And I think we need to run the ball if we can, because Tennessee's going to we're going to see their best game up in Knoxville. The place is going to be crazy up there. I mean, have you predicted your score yet?
I haven't. I'll do it tonight on Tider Insider TV.
Mm-hmm. Well, my buddy just called in a couple of calls ago. He's still high on Auburn, isn't he? Phillip?
Oh, I don't know. I hadn't heard him mention Auburn.
Oh, it's all in fun.
I know.
Oh, Lord. Although I don't want to say too, hey,
Alabama still got to play Auburn, so I don't want to take anything for granted. You know what I mean?
Well, they still ain't gonna win game. They still ain't gonna win 9 games.
No, they're not gonna do that.
Something I want to ask you: what if Vanderbilt wins out? Would they have the tiebreaker on Alabama?
Well, they'd have it against Alabama, sure. I mean, head to head is the first tiebreaker. I mean, if Vanderbilt were to win out, which there's a lot of football left, if Vanderbilt were to win out, they'd have a chance possibly to get to Atlanta. I mean, they've only got one loss in the league. I don't think they're going to win out. But they're a good team, man. You got to give them credit. Their 2 losses
they
are 2 games that they flat out feel like they should have won against Georgia State. But listen, they still got to play a bunch of SEC games too. They've still got to play Texas, LSU, Tennessee, at Auburn, South Carolina. So they're gonna lose a couple more games. They're not gonna win all those games. They're just not.
Well, that would be crazy if they did. Stranger things have happened. What do you think about Georgia and Texas, Gary?
Right now, I haven't picked it yet. Right, just off the cuff, I like Texas at home, but I hadn't studied it yet, so give me some time.
Scoreboard Show from 10 to 11 p.m. The last Scoreboard Show is brought to you by 4th District Congressman Robert Adderholt, Bevel State Community College, 1225 Sports Bar, and Taco Casa.
Tuscaloosa's Old Colony Golf Course is an 18-hole championship layout designed by 1976 U.S. Open champion Jerry Pate. Director of Golf John Gray and fitting specialist Bob Montgomery are PGA certified. Mike Shivitz is the head professional and director of the Tuscaloosa Junior Golf Program. Call today to secure a tee time at the Tuscaloosa Championship Golf Course. Everyone can play. 205-562-3201. Old Colony is operated by Para.
Life doesn't wait for when your finances are in perfect order. It just happens. But no matter what surprises come your way, Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages, and auto loans. They offer an easy application process and fast decisions so you can stay focused on feeling good about whatever life brings your way. Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages, and auto loans. Alabama Credit Union, loans for real life. Visit alabamacu.com to learn more. Some rules and restrictions apply. See if you're eligible for membership, then join today and feel good about your money.
Los Tarascos has been serving Mexican favorites like burritos, fajitas, and quesadillas since 1999. Their new location is at 4100 Owen Parkway in Northport. And of course, you can find Los Tarascos in Tuscaloosa at 110 Skyland Boulevard. The bar areas feature big screen television so you can enjoy your favorite sporting events. Los Tarascos features daily.
Cravings, meet the McDonald's app. 20% off my entire order is just a tap away every day when I spend $6 or more. Whether I'm rolling with the crew and going in on 10-piece chicken McNuggets, or it's date night and we're both getting a tasty caramel frappe and melty quarter pounder with cheese. Deals this fire are right at my fingertips. I crush my cravings with 20% off while my wallet stays intact. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Offer valid through December 31st, 2024. Participating McDonald's. Offer valid once a day. Excludes tax. Must opt in to rewards.
Take control of our future. Vote Republican. Paid for by the Tuscaloosa County Republican Party, P.O. Box 2643, Tuscaloosa, Alabama 35403.
Are you receiving unemployment? Your benefits could be at risk. Here's how you can protect yourself and your benefits. Never respond to mail notifying you of a false claim in your name. Never answer a text message asking you to verify your account. And only respond to official Alabama Department of Labor's social media pages. Report fraud at labor.alabama.gov/fraud. Brought to you by the Alabama Department of Labor, ABA, and the station. The Alabama Department of Labor is an equal opportunity employer program. Auxiliary aids and services available upon request to individuals with disabilities. Dial 711 for TTY accessibility.
The best sports talk in the state. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, it's 9:35. It's time for the Rocket Man, Rudy Armand. 977 ESPN Radio in Huntsville, and joins us weekly for a segment on sports, and we talk a little ball ourselves right here on the show. Good morning, Drew. How are you doing, buddy?
Hey, how are you doing? I'm doing good, Gary.
Doing well. Good to hear from you. Before we get to Tennessee and Alabama, third Saturday in October in Knoxville, let's put the South Carolina game to bed. And I've had to remind myself, much less other people, I've had to remind myself that winning the game is the goal. And when you win the game, you probably shouldn't be as critical maybe as I have been. And it's a new world of college football, and each week you're trying to get the desired result. And Alabama got the desired result, Drew. They won the game. It was a fascinating game, little subplots in the game. I mean, it was 14-0. I thought Alabama was in control with less than 2 minutes to go. And 4th and 9 from the 36, they convert. Not only they convert, they get a touchdown. They wound up scoring 12 points in the final minute, 37, and it was game on. But your takeaways from that game and the fact that Alabama did find a way to win, which is the bottom line, but it certainly wasn't easy at home against the Gamecocks.
No, I mean, the positive, they forced 3 turnovers, which I think ended up being the difference in the game, especially Domani getting the pick to end it. We also saw, that huge fumble after Milrose, second interception in the end zone, which, at the time, with only a couple minutes left in the third quarter in South Carolina up 19-14, Gamecocks had all the momentum, but that fumble led to an Alabama touchdown and ability to retake a 20-19 lead. I just think it was huge to kind of set up the fourth quarter. But no doubt it was frustrating. They had a strip sack fumble that should have ended the game. They got another dumb penalty, a face mask on Q Robinson, but they overcame it because I thought, I wish it would continue, but Alabama was aggressive defensively in that, after blowing the onside kick, Josh Cuevas, Robbie Utes couldn't recover it. The Gamecocks did. They were nearly in field goal range already, but I thought they did a good job of attacking them defensively and putting pressure on the QB and forcing him to throw the pick to Domani Jackson. But I just thought, the thing that bothered me the most is, again, players have to execute and make plays, and they didn't execute on that 4th and 9 for the 36-yard touchdown to Mazeo Bennett. But what they did, and this is on the coaches. The coaches made some very questionable decisions. I mean, first of all, after the penalty, which was another undisciplined play by Alabama, the personal foul on Caleb Odom that backed him up into the end zone. First of all, I would have run the football. I mean, I know they wanted to still be aggressive near the end of the half, but the pass protection had been spotty. Milroe kind of panicked and committed a grounding call that led to a safety. Then you still stand on your head and get the stop. And to me, without question, if you're lucky enough to get the ball back, you down it, you go into the locker room down 14-9, but instead, Kalen DeBoer just inexplicably decides to try to push the ball down the field. Then says in the halftime, the post-game press conference that they were trying to get in position for a Hail Mary. Now, we saw Hail Mary work for the Jets last night, but they don't usually work. And so the situational football, I just think, was lacking overall for Alabama. But they did find a way to win. South Carolina did impress me defensively with their front seven. And, I think the lessons you learn out of it is you got to be more aggressive on defense. You've got to attack. As Eric Curry, we were very blessed to have Eric Curry on the show this morning on Talking Ball, said, you got to hunt. And I thought Alabama hunted finally near the end of that game defensively. They attacked. They didn't read and react. And hopefully that'll be a valuable lesson for them, because really I thought it should have been an ugly 27-7 type game, though. But we saw many of those in the last 17 years. Just, we had to fight another day, shut the other team down. But I thought Alabama kind of let them off the hook. But they did find a way to win. There's something to be said for that. And I thought the thing I was the most encouraged by is that, the end of the game, Alabama took the air out of the ball. And I know there's been a lot of conversation about should Jeremy Bernard have down the ball at the 1. I mean, look, you don't, in some cases, you don't realize how wide open you are. Your instinct is to catch it at the 4 and score. To me, Alabama's got to get better defensively and got to close teams out. But I did think that last drive of the game for the Tide was an outstanding one and one to build on, where the offensive line, Jalen Milroe, the receivers, the running backs, they all stepped up and started to execute. And that's what's going to be the key to finishing out this season strong.
You said a lot there. I want to get back to the aggressiveness on defense, because I agree. And I know a lot of the fans agree reading the boards, but I think there's some validity to the thought process that in the modern game of college football, you've got to affect the quarterback. And listen, are you vulnerable when you bring pressure outside of the normal amount of guys? Yeah, you are. But I think for what we're seeing is I think most of us feel like we'd rather see Alabama give up, as crazy as this sounds, go up, be aggressive and give up a one-play 75-yard strike and get your offense back out there, rather than giving up 14, 15 plays and then getting the same result. Ultimately, when they get a touchdown at the end and your defense is worn out and you've taken time off the clock, with the thought process that if you are aggressive and you bring extra pressure, maybe you force a turnover, maybe you get a sack. So I'm asking this, with what we saw at the end of the game, because you're right on that final possession. Now, they went after the guy. They went after the guy. Do you think that will carry over to the upcoming game against Tennessee, against a quarterback who in the last couple of weeks, when he's been pressured, has made mistakes?
It needs to. I mean, to be honest with you, I think the three biggest keys for Alabama to win this game against Tennessee is they've got to contain Dylan Sampson, who's got nearly 700 yards. They've got to find a way to slow the run down and contain it. I don't know that they'll completely stop it, but you have to contain it. I think they've got to win the plus-minus, which means if you're attacking, Gary, you've got a chance to force turnovers, because I agree with you on Nico Iamaleava. He's a talented young man, but he has been struggling the last couple of weeks. He has some mobility, but he also has his head's not moving. He's been throwing the ball up for grabs, throwing some interceptions. And then I think Milroe has to take care of the ball. He needs to run the football effectively, use his legs, but then also, make some big plays in the passing game, make good decisions. If he does, I think he's the best player on the field, and Alabama can win the game and maybe even win it by double figures. But that's what's gonna have to happen, because, again, this is a talented Tennessee team that's better on defense. But, we had a caller call in yesterday, and he made a great point. Tennessee, they haven't faced the greatest quarterback in the world. They faced Jackson Arnold and Michael Hawkins from Oklahoma. No doubt about that. They faced Taylon Green and Shingleton from Arkansas. And then from Florida, they Graham Mertz, prayers to him. He's out for the season now with an injury, and DJ Lagway. They haven't faced a guy as experienced and as good as Milroe. So if Milroe can play exceptional football on the road, then Alabama can get the win in Neyland Stadium.
One other question on the defense, and I noticed the first play of the defensive series last game against South Carolina, they had 4 defensive linemen, 3 linebackers, and 4 DBs, which is a little bit different. And they did seem to mix up the defenses more in terms of what they did. It seemed like there were a lot of more people involved in timeouts with the defensive groups, and when they were on the sideline, more people coaching. And Coach Womack certainly, I'm confident, was calling the defenses, but he did not seem to be as engaged with the players. Is that something you picked up on? And it seems like there's a lot more input now from other defensive coaches in regards to what they're doing on defense. Am I onto something here? Did you notice that? Do you feel like that's happening?
Well, I mean, I've heard that they were going to shift some responsibilities. I don't know exactly what that entails. I believe Kane Womack is still going to be the DC, but they may have Chuck Morrell and some other guys heavily involved that are analysts that are going to continue to help with the defense, because, again, they've got to get better. There's no doubt about it. Offensively, they've been elite at times. They didn't have an elite performance against South Carolina, but they have led the way for this team, no doubt about it. So I think they're going to shift some things around. I think they need to. I think they, certainly the defensive line has not played as well the last couple of weeks as they need to be, but they did have 4 sacks on Saturday, so they're playing better. But no doubt, Gary, I mean, I don't think there's any question that I think they've got to adjust some things defensively, because I think in some ways Jalen Milrose felt the pressure trying to make big plays when they're not there. Just take what the defense gives you, get Justice Haynes involved, get Jam Miller involved, and I think Alabama can get a win. But, yeah, I don't think there's any doubt. These defensive players know they're being watched, and they know they've got to get better, and it starts on Saturday.
I said this earlier, and I believe it. The game's changed a lot in the last few years. Being a dominant college football team is going to be very difficult in the era in which we live, but you can still be a good football team, and you can still reach all your goals. Alabama's at the halfway point, Drew, and even with the loss to Vanderbilt, they're still 5-1, 2-1 in the SEC. It's a 6-game season now. How do you feel about this Alabama team doing what it needs to do, whether it gets to Atlanta or not, doing what it needs to do to get one of those 12 spots in the college football playoff? Do you feel good about it?
Well, it's going to depend on what happens Saturday. If they perform well and win at Tennessee, look, I thought about this, Gary. I mean, and another reason why we wanted to feature Eric Curry this morning, he went through a transition that's very similar to what Alabama's going through now. He came in from Thomasville, Georgia in the late 80s, around 89. He went through the transition from Don Lindsay to Bill Oliver defensively. They went from kind of a read and react defense to an attacking one, and they got off to a slow start. They were 0-3, as you remember. I mean, people were panicking. I mean, they lost to Southern Miss in Birmingham. They lost to the Florida Gators, and then they lost, and I believe that was in Birmingham as well, and then they lost to Georgia and Athens. So they were 0-3 and not playing well, but they got up off the mat. And the biggest win of the Gene Stallings era in his first year was Tennessee on the road in Neyland Stadium, when Tennessee was ranked in the top 3 in the country, and Alabama was told they were a high school team with no chance to win. And we all know what happened there with Philip Doyle in the 9-6 game. And then in Nick Saban's first year, and these are the last 2 Hall of Fame coaches to roam the sideline at Alabama. Alabama got off to a good start, but the biggest win was, everybody remembers the textbook scandal. It broke on the morning before Alabama played Tennessee in Tuscaloosa. And this was an 11 a.m., early kick, Jefferson Pilot game, whatever you want to say. And Alabama was a significant underdog, but they came out, onside kick, John Parker Wilson, DJ Hall, Terry Grant, all played great. The offensive line played outstanding, and Alabama routed Tennessee 41-17. And I thought it was the biggest win of Dick Saban's first year and really signal a changing of the guard in the Alabama-Tennessee rivalry. So, Kalen DeBoer, I know he talked about it yesterday. He's been made aware of it. He understands it. But if you want to be at Alabama for a long time, there's 2 games that you have to win. You have to win Tennessee and Auburn, and this is his first opportunity. Certainly he needs to get this done. It's tough. It's going to be very tough on the road, but I think he has the team that can get it done. And if they get it done and go to 6-1, Gary, I think it sets up well for them to be able to navigate this schedule and potentially either play in the SEC championship game or get to the playoffs. So if you don't beat Tennessee, I think it's almost an elimination game on Saturday. Yeah,
you're right. You beat Tennessee, and the vibe around here next week's going to be completely different. It's going to be positive, and there's going to be momentum.
There's nothing better than whipping Tennessee's ass 17 out of 18 times, Gary.
That's right. And that's what if they win Saturday, to be 17 out of 18, which is mind-blowing, really, in a rivalry of this magnitude. All right, I want to talk a little hoops with you.
It's glorious, Gary. Yeah. It's glorious.
I want to talk a little hoops with you before we close it out. Alabama, number 2 in the preseason AP poll. I think they're number 3 in KenPom. SEC Media Day over there today in Mountain Brook. Just so much hype, so much excitement. One thing that's a little concerning, and I want to see if you know, is, you had the big banner unveiling Friday night, had a scrimmage, dunk contest, 3-point contest, 3 guys in street clothes. Now, we know Youngblood's going to be out for a while, but what are you hearing? Is everybody going to be good to go for the most part once they start the season?
Yeah, I mean, I think Darion Reed was in the dunk contest. He's fine now. I know Latrell Wrightsville didn't dress. He's going to be here. I'm actually on my way to the Grand Bohemian Hotel.
Okay.
So he is supposed to be there with Mark Sears. That's the two representatives for the University of Alabama. I think, of course, that's going to probably be a question for Nate Oates today, is the health of the team overall, because they have so much depth. But, yeah, I think Houston Millette has come back from injury as well. Youngblood, as you said, lower leg, had some an ankle-type procedure. He may be out until the SEC portion of play. We'll find out more about that today. But, from what I understand, Aiden Sherrill, I don't think was dressed out either. But from what we understand, and we'll get it clarified, I think both those guys are going to be fine. They're going to be good to go for the season. And it's interesting. We had this on the show. My guesses were wrong. I would have thought that Alabama, this is the third time they've been predicted, Gary, to win the SEC in the preseason. One of the other two times would have been my third guess. My two guesses were wrong. I picked 76 and 87. Both of those were wrong. Alabama was actually picked to win the Southeastern Conference in the preseason in 1991. And then my third choice, 2003, coming off of that season where they won the SEC regular season under Mark Godfrey, and then lost the SEC tournament by one basket and lost to Antonio Gates and Kent State in the round of 32. But it's very exciting for Alabama. It's very exciting for the state, first of all, because I think this probably is the first time in history that Alabama and Auburn were picked 1 and 2 in basketball, Gary Harris, in the SEC in the preseason. That's significant and shows how important and how big basketball has become in the state of Alabama.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And now the challenge is to finish it, to have the kind of season that lives up to the hype. And you and I both know that's the difficult part. Last year's team was a pretty good team, but they got hot. They made the run. We've seen other teams around here that we thought were Final Four caliber that didn't get out of the first weekend. I mean, it's tricky. You want to have a great regular season. You want to set yourself up. You want to get a high seed in the NCAA tournament. But then once you get there, you got to go. So it is not going to be easy to go to back-to-back Final Fours for a program that had never been to one. But this team, at least when you look at the roster, Drew, seems to have the talent, the experience, the coaching to do it. And that's all you can hope for, I guess, going into the season, is feel like you got a team that's capable of making a run and having a chance to win it all.
Yeah, I mean, you want to stay healthy and humble and hungry. And they brought Brian Adams in to coordinate the defense. I'm anxious to see the impact he's making and maybe hear from Nate Oates on that, how that installation has gone. Of course, they've got two erasers now in Cliff Amore, who looks great in the inter-squad scrimmage last week for the Final Four reveal. He looked outstanding. He'll take the court against Wake Forest coming up in Boutwell Auditorium. I was told last night there's less than 100 tickets remaining for the game against Wake Forest, Gary. So that'll be the first scrimmage. That Cliff's going to be a huge addition, literally and figuratively, in the middle of that team, and then Aiden Sherrill behind him. And then I'm anxious to see Darion Reed. I want to ask Coach Oates about him. He seems to be a guy that's a junkyard dog that he's a winner. He makes winning plays, almost like a Herb Jones. I'm very anxious to see him take the court, for the Crimson Tide. And then, of course, Mark Sears, we know he's preseason SEC Player of the Year. Latrell Wrightsville, his second year in the system. How much better can he get? And let's not forget a healthy Grant Nelson, because for most of the season last year he was not. How much better can he be? A, being healthy, and B, being able to play his natural position, the power forward, beside a guy like Cliff Amore, who can help with the shot blocking and the rebounding.
You're right. Great points. Enjoy Mountain Brook and SEC Media Day. Just real quickly, Drew, mention your social and different places that folks can find you.
Yeah, they can follow me at Drew D 977 ESPN. Also at 977 ESPN for our station. If you want to hear any of our content, including our great interview with Eric Curry, you can go to our SoundCloud page, 97.7thezone.com. And then, of course, you can go to the website, ESPN97.7thezone.com. So we appreciate everybody's support. We always enjoy being on Tide 109 on the Gary Harris Show, and looking forward to being out at the Grand Bohemian Hotel and taking in some basketball. It's a very exciting time in our state, and basketball's right around the corner, and they'll be opening against UNC Asheville, I believe, on November 4th with a Crimson Tide.
Thank you, Drew.
Thank you, Gary.
All right, we'll take a time out and come back and wrap up this first hour right after this.
Already, you've got to try Tuscaloosa's unique breakfast, brunch, and lunch concept. Brick and Spoon, downtown Tuscaloosa, Timerson Square. It's fresh food with a Cajun flair featuring a full bar with build-your-own Bloody Marys and mimosas. Open daily, 7 a.m. until 2 p.m. Available for after hours.
Better living at First and Main. Visit firstandmaincondos.com or call 205-657-7465. Mention you heard about us on the radio and receive 1 month free rent.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
A beautiful fall day today. The sky's sunny, the high 69. Clear, very cool tonight, the low 41. For tomorrow, sunny with a high at 62. And Thursday, a sunny day. We'll probably have some frost early Thursday morning. The high Thursday afternoon, 67. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 55 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Covering University of Alabama sports, as well as the national and local scene as well. The Gary Harris Show, only on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 9:59. That's going to wrap it up for hour number one, and we're going to come back on the other side. We'll be here with hour number two. Plenty more phone calls that we can get to. Also, Kayla Anderson at 10:15 with the Titans Report. Another hour of the Gary Harris Show is on the way.
WTBC Tuscaloosa and W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Monsi Bolaños.
This just in, the NFL Network is reporting that the Raiders are trading all-pro wide receiver Davante Adams to the Jets in exchange for a 2025 conditional third-round pick that can become a second-round pick based on performance. The Jets are taking on the rest of Adams' salary, who will reunite with Aaron Rodgers. The Athletic reports that Adams is already in the Jets building. They also report that the Jets have given pass rusher Hassan Reddick, who hasn't played a single snap this season after being traded by the Eagles in April, a short window to seek a trade. Last night during Monday Night Football, the Bills held on to beat the Jets 23-20. Buffalo is the only team in the AFC East with a winning record. In baseball, the Yankees took game one of the...
On 3, The Bear is brought to you by North River Outdoors. Check us out at northriveroutdoors.com.
The Alabama Securities Commission protects you from financial fraud. Anyone asking you for investment money must be licensed. You're careful with your money. Fraudsters aren't. Before you invest, call our hotline at 1-800-222-1253 to verify the licensing of the person making an offer and the product.
.com today. Don't miss being a part of the Sea of Crimson when the Tide hosts conference foes Auburn, LSU, and South Carolina. The new season tips off on November 4th.
The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV. Crimson Tide Kickoff. Play-by-play for Alabama sports and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 10:03, hour number two of the Gary Harris Show right here on Tide 100.9 FM, 1230 AM, WTBC for Tuesday, October 15, 2024. I'm Gary Harris, Chase Brumfeld alongside. Phone calls wide open in this segment. If you want to give us a ring at 205-342-9904 on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline. In the next segment, Kayla Anderson with the Titans Report as Tennessee once again on Sunday had a chance to win a football game and probably should have won it against the Colts, and they didn't. In Nashville, home game, bad loss, division loss. It's and you got to wonder, how much longer are they going to stay with Will Levis as the quarterback before they make a switch to Mason Rudolph? Calvin Ridley upset. I mean, he was in the postgame I would probably play it for you, but you'd have to beep it out. It was so, he was not happy at all. We may try to find that, though, and see maybe there's a beeped version. See if you can find a beeped version, and we'll play it before we do go to Kayla, just to try to show you how upset some of the Tennessee Titans players are, including former Alabama wide receiver Calvin Ridley. And I'll say this, and I'll ask Kayla about this. He was complaining about not getting targets early in the game. Well, you got a lot of them late in the game, catch some of them. Some of them he could have caught, and he didn't. So it's just a mess right now with the Tennessee Titans. All right, let's get back to Alabama football, because that is that's the topic that we most are most concerned about. And we visited with Drew DeArmond about that, and Alabama basketball, of course, which is big right now. But again, I was breaking down the schedule when we got phone calls in the first hour, and I agree with everything Drew said. I mean, you hate to put this much pressure on one game, but after losing to Vanderbilt, it is what it is. If you were undefeated going into this game, it wouldn't necessarily be the case. But with one loss, this feels like an elimination game for both these teams. Tennessee has a loss. Alabama has a loss. The winner is going to be feeling good and going toward what they hope is, a spot in Atlanta for the SEC championship. If not, certainly hope to get into the playoff. The loser of this game is going to have a tough time. There's just no other way around it, because the loser is going to be 5-2 with 2 losses in the SEC. And from the Alabama perspective, as I said, you got a home game against Missouri. That's not going to be easy. Then you do get the bye. After the bye, you go to LSU. So that's not going to be a picnic, obviously. Then you're home against Mercer. Clearly you win that one. And then the final 2 at Oklahoma. As I said, I think by then Oklahoma, their quarterback's going to be much more experienced. They're going to have some receivers back. They're going to be at home. And then you have the Iron Bowl. Now, the Iron Bowl in Tuscaloosa lately has just been a blowout. There's no other way around it. The last close Iron Bowl was 2014, and that turned out to be 55-44. It was 55-36, but it was a very competitive game. 2012 was 49-0. Of course, 2010 was the comeback. But 2016, 2018, 2020, 2022, all blowouts, all one-sided wins for Alabama. So you have to feel good about your chances of winning that game here. But the key is, can you make the Iron Bowl mean something? Can you get to that game with knowing that a win in the Iron Bowl is going to propel you to big things? Or are you just playing for bragging rights? Are you just playing because, hey, we got 3 losses already, we got to win the Iron Bowl to salvage the season a little bit? That's not a position Alabama has been in a long time. But potentially could be in that position this year. You lose Saturday, you drop one at LSU, and suddenly you're going in the Iron Bowl with 3 losses, maybe even 4. So this game Saturday afternoon on the banks of the Tennessee River at Neyland Stadium is a huge football game. It is the biggest game of Kalen DeBoer's career at Alabama. I know at the time the Georgia game seemed like it, but that was a game where Alabama had not even played an SEC game yet. The loss to Vanderbilt has raised the stakes in regards to what Alabama has in front of them. And this Tennessee game, again, I continue to stress it. As far as a matchup is concerned, Alabama is a favorite in this game. And I think that that's surprising to a lot of people. Alabama actually is up to a 3-point favorite, Chase. They opened, I think, at 2.5, and they're up to 3. But again, odds makers are setting a line based on trying to get an equal amount of play. And the perception still is, I guess, that Alabama, to get enough money on Tennessee, you got to set Alabama as the favorite. But lines can be surprising. I mean, I'm surprised. Auburn is a 2-4 team, 0-3 in the SEC, going to Missouri, who is the number 19 team in the country, was unbeaten until they got shellacked by Texas A&M. But Missouri's only a 4.5-point favorite in that game. But these odds makers, they're good. They're really good. There's a reason they set the lines where they set them. I mean, just off the cuff, I would say, why isn't Missouri a 6 or 7 point favorite in that game?
I think with how Auburn played against Georgia, they might be a little kind of skeptical because they kept Georgia close and they kind of pulled it out a little bit.
And I wouldn't be surprised if they go in there to Missouri and win the game.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, it wouldn't surprise me one bit coming off a bye if they go into Missouri and win that game. All right, let's go ahead while I'm on the schedule and run down all the point spreads for you. And again, I bounced back last week and went 5-2, so I feel really, really, really good about that. My only losses were UMass and Oklahoma. So there you go. All right, this week, Auburn at Missouri, as we said, Missouri is a 4.5-point favorite. That game is going to be Saturday morning at 11 a.m. on ESPN. The over-under is 51.5. Alabama at Tennessee, 2:30 on ABC. Alabama is a 3-point favorite, and the over-under is 56.5. South Carolina at OU, Oklahoma, 11:45 on the SEC Network. Oklahoma's a 3-point favorite, and the over-under is 40.5. A&M at Mississippi State in the Battle of the Maroon. A&M is a 15.5-point favorite. The over-under is 56.5. Now, Chase is a Mississippi State guy. You have to be encouraged by the young quarterback's play against Georgia. Listen, they lost the game, but they scored 31 points, and he started making some plays in that game.
And it's so interesting because I was watching it when we were on the postgame show with Matt Coulter and Wyatt Fulton, and I was shocked. I said the fact that we are this close with Georgia for like 3 quarters.
Yeah,
I'm kind of excited for next season. Now we're kind of survival mode.
Yeah,
not happy about it. But hey, we almost gave Georgia a run for their money.
And again, the young quarterback showed some playmaking ability. But they're a 15.5-point underdog against A&M at home. LSU's at Arkansas. That ought to be a heck of a football game. 6 o'clock on ESPN Saturday night in Fayetteville. LSU's a 2.5-point favorite. The over-under is 54.5. Ball State at Vanderbilt. Vandy, 26-point favorite. Over-under 58.5. I mean, clearly you feel like Vanderbilt's going to win the game. It'll be interesting to see if they come out and play with some juice, though, after back-to-back wins over Alabama and Kentucky. Do they have a little bit of a letdown or not? Georgia at Texas. That's, there's a lot of big games. That's certainly one of them. Top 5 matchup in Austin, 6:30 on Saturday night. Texas is a 4-point favorite, and the over-under is 56.5. And Kentucky at Florida, man. Florida and Kentucky both going in the wrong direction. Somebody's going to get a win. This is an odd line. Florida is a half-point favorite, 0.5, 0.05. You very rarely see that, yeah. According to ESPN, they're a half-point favorite, and the over-under is 42.5. So that's and that game is on SEC.
Free shipping to your home on purchases over $25. Your new Academy Sports and Outdoor store is located at 4610 U.S. Highway 280 in Birmingham.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
A beautiful fall day today. The sky's sunny, the high 69. Clear, very cool tonight, the low 41. For tomorrow, sunny with a high of 62. And Thursday, a sunny day. We'll probably have some frost early Thursday morning. The high Thursday afternoon, 67. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 57 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Catch every game and every moment right here. This is your home of Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 10:16, welcome back in. And you hear Tennessee Whiskey, you know it's time for my friend Kayla Anderson. Emmy-winning sports anchor now on Ramon, Kayla, and Will on 104.5 The Zone in Nashville weekday mornings and covering the Titans for us. And we got a lot to cover this morning, that is for sure. Good morning, Kayla.
Hey, Gary.
Doing well. And we wanted to run, I told Chase to take a look at the Calvin Ridley audio and see if there was anything he could do with it, but it was just so rough. We couldn't get enough beeps in, so we'll talk about that in a moment. But once again, the Titans had a chance to win a game. Probably should have won a game. But they didn't, and that's what this season so far has become. You're 1-4. Unfortunately, that was the first division game at home, and you lose to a Colts team that, give Flacco credit, man. The guy just finds a way to win games. But 20-17, late touchdown pass there that was kind of just a throw-up prayer, and It went for a TD, but just a really disheartening loss if you're a Tennessee Titans fan.
It is, and that's really how many of these losses have been, Gary, in terms of disheartening, because you've had opportunities to win outside the Green Bay Packers game. You've had an opportunity to win
every one of them,
mostly all of the games that you've lost. Yeah, and it is what's frustrating and disappointing, and that you couldn't get your first win at home yet this season. So the fan base is already kind of checking out because they haven't even been able to give them a win at home. And then on top of it, you're not able to finish games. That has been such a major issue for this team, where things are going right in certain situations, and then they find themselves in maybe an adverse situation later in the game, and they just can't do enough to hold it together, or they just can't make the plays to come out victorious. It always seems to fall apart when adversity hits this team. And yes, most of that is coming when adversity hits the offensive side of the ball.
All right, let's, even though it was a throw it up from Flacco to Pittman that beat the Titans, the offense again sputtered. And I mean, I've just got to continue to ask you about the quarterback situation. Will Levis threw for 95 yards. I mean, there's, another late interception. It's just, it just doesn't seem like it's happening with him. Why is there so much resistance to giving Mason Rudolph a chance to be the starter?
And that's scary. What I think has us dumbfounded as somebody and the people who cover this team and who talk about this team every single day. We're just scratching our heads at this point, because I think when you've got a quarterback who, by the way, who is gaining national attention for all the wrong reason, whether that be his memes or, just the boneheaded plays he's made. I mean, he has really created kind of a joke out of this team early on in the season because of some of the things he's done, and not everything can be put on him. But I will say he has not helped himself enough to dig himself out of this hole. And I think a lot of the things that they're saying they've seen from Will Levis, when Brian Callahan talked about him on Monday, is, we're seeing him get the ball out quicker. Yes, he was probably, I think he was the tops in terms of quarterbacks to get the ball out the quickest in the NFL this last week. But if that's not amounting to anything, and if he's still missing his targets, and if he's still not able to get the job done, then none of those little things matter. Those little things then have to figure out how to find a win when it's all said and done. And he's not been able to do that. He was actually credited with the win against the Miamis just statistically because he started the game and played enough. But he did not get that win. Mason Rudolph got that win. So he has not won a game this season in my eyes. And that's what matters in the end. That's what fans are looking at. It's not the little things that you're getting better at. How do you put those together to find a way to win? And so when they're saying that they want to find out who Will Levis is in every, capacity, how long does it take you to figure out who Will Levis is? I think we've kind of seen who he is. Granted, it's 5 games into the season. Maybe that's not enough for the organization to see who he is. But at some point, when you continue to build loss after loss, that locker room is going to erupt. And people are going to start pointing their fingers. And how long can these wide receivers keep saying Levis is our guy when they're not even being able to be the type of receiver they were sent here to be, i.e. Calvin Ridley? So I think it's just one of those things that eventually they've got to pull the plug on Will Levis. And it might happen in the next 2 weeks, but you're going up against the Buffalo Bills and Detroit Lions.
Two of the best teams
that
in the
could
league.
be an embarrassing time for this franchise.
Yeah, two of the best teams in the league, and you're going on the road to play both of them. Yeah, you just on the surface, these two games look like they could be ugly. All right, let's get to Calvin Ridley, your free agent acquisition. Early in the season looked pretty good. Now, I'll say this. I covered him in college. He's a excellent player. Always was a little, I don't know if quirky's the word, but temperamental for sure. Yeah. And let me say this. You catch the ball when you get it thrown to you. He had an opportunity there in the fourth quarter to make some catches. So first of all, you need to catch the ball when it is thrown to you. Do a better job of that. He did say that he stunk it up, but he was adamant that you've got to get me involved. We've got to, and I took this as I took this not just at Levis, but at the play caller too. That we got
Brian Callahan. Yeah.
So, but that's not good when a player comes out in the locker room and is just dropping F-bombs and just was really upset.
And let me paint the picture for you, because I was there for him when he kind of erupted in that locker room. And I want to back that up a little too and say, I want to count at least 6 players who had similar types of responses to questions after the game on Sunday. He was not the only one. Clearly, he's going to get majority of the coverage because he's a top-paid wide receiver here on offense, right? But that locker room, there was a lot of that frustration going around. Now, earlier in the week, Gary, he was also set off by a reporter here that I thought carelessly brought up, or the way that he kind of directed the question at Calvin Ridley was poorly stated, bringing up money. It just didn't go over well and really kind of brought Calvin Ridley to a boiling point. And this was on, I believe, Wednesday when we had media availability in the locker room. So he was already kind of in a situation this week where he was frustrated. And then you see he gets 8 targets, most of those coming in the fourth quarter, second half at least. And he was frustrated, right? And so I understand that. Ridley is very transparent. He's kind of raw. That's how he's been since the day he got here, too. And when things start to go wrong, which they are because they're losing, I kind of feel like it wasn't a surprise to me, but it was a surprise in terms of this is how frustrated he is, because he doesn't feel like there's enough being done to get him in a rhythm early on. And that's where I will agree with him. I do think you need to get him the ball a little earlier to get him involved in the game plan. But this has been such a disjointed offense. I think it's hard right now to figure out what their game plan, what the play calling is. I think Callahan's even a little bit confused with, what he's able to do because of the lack of the quarterback play. I think that's really changed everything for him, because he thought Will Levis would be progressed at this point more in the season. But I do understand, though, I think at least you got to catch 4 of those balls, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, when it's all said and done, you're considered the top receiver on this team other than DeAndre Hopkins. You've got to at least catch half those balls that were thrown your way. And, yeah, big players, big money players, they need to make big plays, and you didn't do that either.
All right, Kayla, it's Tuesday. The Bills are coming off an emotional win last night over the Jets, so they do have a short week. But you got to show up in Buffalo on Sunday whether you want to or not, and you got to try to find a way to play well. Yet we're sitting here on Tuesday, and the quarterback situation's a mess. The wide receiver room's a mess. Callahan, who was brought in here more or less for his offensive prowess, because you had a defensive type head coach in Vrabel. And I guess what's so frustrating for people that follow the Titans is Levis has some talent. You can see that. And he made some dumb mistakes early in the year, but he at least flashed. At least early on, you were looking at it saying, well, you can see some talent here, And now he just gets worse every week. And I don't know if that's a reflection on Callahan or it's just to the point now I've sensed it reading the Titans fans boards that, they've already checked out. You hate to say that a fan base has checked out five games in, particularly when you did win a game at Miami on a Monday night. But the fans want to change, whether it's Rudolph, whether it's acquiring one of these high round draft picks that are backing up somewhere. We've seen other quarterbacks that have, maybe there are guys out there that are available, I guess is what I'm saying. You've got options if you're Tennessee. You've got a Rudolph. You could go acquire a quarterback from another team that's a backup. Do something to try to engage your fan base a little bit. What's the vibe there? Are they trying to do anything to get some excitement built around this team?
No, I mean, that's the sticky situation, and that's what's so confusing and hard about covering this team right now, because they have come out, Brian Callahan has come out and said day after day after day and performance after performance that Will Levis is our quarterback as long as he's healthy. And we're going to do everything we can to figure out who Will Levis is. My question with that statement, because they've also made it clear they want to build a winning culture here. And, yeah, that will take more time, but it has to start with winning games now, at least winning some games. And if you are throwing the quarterback out there that's not winning games for you, at least, winning the games they're supposed to win, which should have been the Colts game, then you start to have a complete division of this fan base, and more so the fans that are jumping ship, because right now they just assume Will Levis is going to be the quarterback because they said they're going to try to figure out who he is. And by all accounts, that means keeping him in the rest of the season unless he gets injured. And I don't think the fan base believes in Will Levis, and I don't necessarily blame them. And I've been a really more proponent to him than not, because I felt like there was the Brian Callahan quarterback connection. Maybe he could, do things to help Will Levis, but I just don't see that happening at this point. And maybe a switch comes on. There's always that opportunity, but you've got 2 more games, like I said, against really good teams. I just find it doubtful that the switch will, come on then. Maybe you make that quarterback change after that, and maybe that boosts some fans a little bit to get back on the train just to see what can happen with a change at quarterback. But I think it's something where it's going to be a struggle throughout the season for this fan base, because I don't necessarily see them making a change, because they're going to try to figure out, which might take the whole season, who Will Levis really is, and then maybe you get a high draft pick and try to roll your dice on finding your next quarterback in the draft. Yeah,
maybe so. You just have to think they're seeing something from him in practice. Maybe Callahan's mesmerized by his biceps. He does have the best quarterback biceps in the league. Maybe that's what it is.
He does have some good biceps. Yep. He can probably bench a lot, I will say that. But that's probably not. Again, when your means are actually outplaying the plays that you're making on the field, that is not a good sign for a franchise, okay?
Defensively, they continue to be pretty good. I mean, I can't be too harsh on them. Although, I guess, I don't know if you call it a fluke or not, but they, the play that ultimately got them beat, although there was still plenty of time left in the game, was the throw up by Flacco to Pittman, and you got an all-pro cornerback in a position there to make a play and couldn't make it. So how much blame are the defensive guys putting on themselves, even though they're playing pretty well? Are they shouldering some blame too and just saying, hey man, we had a chance to make a play and we didn't make it?
Yeah, and first of all, before I get into that, Gary, I want to say this, because I really got heated about this. I think the Colts did a lot of the league dirty this last weekend, giving information to some of the top NFL insiders, including Adam Schefter, saying Michael Pittman was a high candidate for going on IR, and then, saying to everybody throughout the week that Anthony Richardson was pretty much 100% going to play. Even an ESPN insider for the Colts, who had dinner with an ESPN insider for the Titans the night before, said he thought 100% Anthony Richardson was going to go. To pull that kind of crap, I thought that was a little bit too much for the Colts to play those types of games when people have betting dollars involved in this, and I just thought that was not a class act by the organization. But then again, it's Jim Irsay. Anyway, to your point about the defense, they definitely take responsibility for the things they need to take responsibility for, and one of those things is clearly you cannot give up those types of plays, especially when you are trying to win a game like that down the stretch. But I will say they were gassed, Gary. This defense was gassed. And down the stretch, this has kind of been the situation for them because this offense just, in the fourth quarter in particular, cannot put together a drive without shooting themselves in the foot, and then back comes the defense again. And, you guys got to hold it together for us. They couldn't get off the field on third down. That was an issue for them when it came down to that game in particular. And while I do believe they got a lot of pressure on Joe Flacco, I think one thing they have to continue to work on is getting actual, and I know it's sometimes the numbers don't mean everything. They only have 9 sacks on the season. That's 27th best in the league. That's not good enough. You've got to continue to try to get pressure on quarterbacks, especially when they're 39 years old and not very mobile, because that can give you an opportunity to, again, have a turnover, which they did get one in this game, their first interception of the season that came early in the game. But, yeah, the defense does take accountability. But, Gary, at some point, they're the ones even giving them a chance to win in these games. I think that's where the locker room could start to divide and fingers could be started to point at some point if this doesn't get fixed offensively.
All right, real quickly, Caleb, because I know you got to get going. Talking about teams trying to win. I give the Jets credit. Now they let one get away last night, and Aaron Rodgers to me has been, okay, not great, but they're going to get Davante Adams. So this is a case of a team that at least is, they're doing everything they can to try to win. I'll give Woody Johnson credit for that. What do you think about the Davante Adams deal? Obviously, you would think on the surface that's going to make the Jets a better team on offense.
Well, yeah, he's one of the best wide receivers in the league that has honestly been kept under a blanket in Las Vegas just because they just haven't been able to be good, right? And they haven't had quarterbacks to be able to win games, even though his numbers past couple of years in Vegas have been outstanding. And they're just overshadowed because, A, they're on the West Coast, and B, they're just not a great organization right now. But he's still one of the best to do it. And so I'm not surprised by any means that he's headed to the New York Jets. That's definitely one of the landing places I thought he'd go to. But Aaron Rodgers kind of continues to show, though, that he runs the show. I don't even know if it's Woody Johnson. I think it's Aaron Rodgers going to Woody Johnson and pretty much telling Johnson & Johnson, hey, man, this is what we're doing. You're going to fire Robert Saleh. You're going to bring over Davante Adams. Do whatever it is to get the job done. And I respect the fact that they want to win, and Aaron Rodgers wants to win. Look, it's probably one of maybe 2 years to go in his career, and they've got the pieces to be a really good team. But, Gary, at what point does all the drama, all the dysfunction that goes on in that organization, and we see it with the Cowboys organization, that's another kind of situation I would relate it to. Sometimes does that overshadow what you actually can do on the field? Because you've got all the pieces, it shows, right? You got a high-caliber defense. You've got the run game, at least it appeared to be, last night especially. You've got a quarterback who's going to be future Hall of Famer. But I just feel like there's so much other dysfunction with this organization that it kind of casts a shadow over the final result, which they want to be is going to the playoffs and winning a Super Bowl. So we'll see if this helps. By no means does it hurt, I don't think, Gary. But I have no belief in the New York Jets because of how dysfunctional that organization is.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. All right, and we saw Alabama and Nashville a couple weeks ago. It didn't work out well for the Tide there. Now they go to East Tennessee to take on Tennessee on Saturday afternoon. I hate to say it, but I feel this feels like an elimination game a little bit for these two teams. How do you see this one?
Yeah, elimination game in terms of exactly the playoff, and it couldn't get more crazier because it is a rivalry, right? And you know how much these two teams hate each other. And Tennessee has them back in their place where the last time, they beat them in their place was 2 years ago, which was an outstanding game. But these are two teams that are also kind of trying to figure out at this point of the season how to go in the right direction and kind of to get out of maybe a little bit of a funk. I know they both won last weekend, but it wasn't exactly what the fan base wanted to see. For Tennessee's purposes, the fan base is a little worried about the offense. It's reminds me of the Tennessee Titans in a big way. They've got a run game, right? You've seen Dylan Sampson, how dominant he can be, but it's almost like Josh Heupel, maybe overthought this offense in the way that he was trying to run it. I know Nico Iamaleava is young, but it's almost like they're coming out of the gates every single game. They're not getting points on the board. They've actually been shut out in the first quarter, in the first half, I believe, the last two games, first quarter, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just not been good, and it's not been like a Josh Heupel run offense. So I think they need to figure out a way to have Nico Iamaleava gain his confidence back a little bit more. They're close to hitting some of these passes with these wide receivers that need to make plays, but it's not quite there yet. And so I think that's what the Vols need to figure out is, what are we on offense? What in the heck is our identity? Because we're not the offense that we thought we were going to be. The offensive line has had some problems. They need to step up their game, not get behind the chains. But again, it has to be a fast start for this Tennessee offense, because the defense is not the problem. And I think the defense is what could create problems for Alabama. But, you can speak more to that in terms of, consistency of Jalen Milroe and protecting the ball, because this could be a really interesting game when it's all said and done.
Oh, I expect it to go down right to the final play of the game, Kayla. I really do. Hey, great stuff as always. I appreciate it. And for the folks that want to, follow you and listen to your show, tell them how they can do it.
Yeah, you can follow me on social media, X, Twitter, at Kayla Anderson TV. You can also always go back and listen to our podcast, Ramon, Kayla, and Will, wherever you get your podcast.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, you guys. Appreciate it.
All right, Kayla Anderson with us with the Titans Report. It's 10:38 here on the Gary Harris Show. Hey, the YMCA of Tuscaloosa, I was in there yesterday, man. Awesome facility. I just feel better. Chase, one thing, I feel better because I work out, but two, just going to the Y, man. I saw so many people yesterday, friends of mine. It's a great community of people, and that is a big part of it too. It's not just the workouts; it's being around great folks. Really easygoing, laid-back atmosphere. There's full-time attendants on duty. There's no hollering, screaming, people trying to intimidate you about equipment. None of that goes on at the YMCA. Great place to work out. 2300 13th Street. I've been a member for over 20 years. I'd love for you to join me at the Y in Tuscaloosa. The Y is ready when you're ready for the Y. We'll be right back.
Hello. Nice. With Downy Unstoppable, you just toss, wash, wow, for all-day freshness.
Serving part-time in the Army National Guard has led to a lot of firsts for me. It paid for me to be the first person in my family to go to school. That education got me to the first day at my dream job, which I can still hold while I serve part-time. That job and the home loan benefits I got from the Army National Guard helped me buy my first house. I also know that I will be one of the first to respond if my community ever needs me.
Sponsored by the Alabama Army National Guard. Aired by the Alabama Broadcasters Association and this station.
Are you receiving unemployment? Your benefits could be at risk. Here's how you can protect yourself and your benefits. Never respond to mail notifying you of a false claim in your name. Never answer a text message asking you to verify your account. And only respond to official Alabama Department of Labor's social media pages. Report fraud at labor.alabama.gov/fraud. Brought to you by the
or Town Square Media Tuscaloosa radio websites. Fill out the Advertise Here form. Put the power of Town Square Media to work for your business.
You see him on WVUA 23 covering sports and on Tider Insider TV on Tuesday nights. Don't miss a minute of the Gary Harris Show. Weekdays from 9 to 11 on Tide 100.9.
All right, 10:43 here on the Gary Harris Show. Welcome back in. And phone lines are open on the Pinnacle Park and North River Hotline, 205-342-9904. Couple of notes, programming notes. Of course, Friday I'll be out at Innisfree. Friday morning, Fridays at the Free. And then on Thursday, I guess, then on Friday, Thursday before Friday. But Thursday I'm going to be at the R&R Cigar Mansion downtown. It's Cigar Week, of course, with Alabama and Tennessee, and I'll be there live Thursday morning at 9 a.m. at the mansion for R&R Cigars. So looking forward to that remote as well. So be on location both Thursday and Friday morning this week as we get ready for the third Saturday in October between Alabama and Tennessee. All right, when you look at this game, and we've been looking at it a lot this morning, great insight from Drudy Armand and from Kayla Anderson on the game. I think that most people kind of see this game as a toss-up game. I mean, even though Alabama is favored by 3 points on the road, which I still am a little surprised by, to be honest with you. I'd probably have Tennessee favored by a field goal myself. But again, I mean, that's the power of the brand of Alabama, is that the odds makers feel like, well, we've got to, if you make Alabama an underdog here, everybody's going to load up on Alabama. So let's set Alabama's a 3-point favorite, 2.5-point favorite. Actually, it's gone up a half point. So that means the early money at least has been coming in on Alabama. So Tennessee, because you're focused, when you follow Alabama, cover Alabama, you're focused on your team, right? But Tennessee's really struggled offensively these last two games. I mean, they've really struggled and got shut out in the first half at Arkansas, got shut out in the first half against Florida. Lost to Arkansas, could have easily lost to Florida, and offensively, the young quarterback has hit the wall a little bit. And we were talking with Drew about pressure and being aggressive on defense, and Iamaleava has really struggled some when he is pressured. He has felt the heat. He's looked rattled. And the last thing you want to do is sit back and let Iamaleava get into a rhythm. Because if you do that, he is dangerous. If you give him time, he's got a big arm. He is capable of making all the throws. And if you let him sit back there and get comfortable, he can light you up. But the last two games, people have gotten in his grill. They've gotten after him. They've hit him. They've pressured him. They have caused him problems. And he has not responded in a way that the Tennessee coaches would like to see him respond. So I think if you're Alabama, my point is, just like it's been made already this morning, is take your shots. I mean, go after the guy. Pressure. If you give up plays, you're going to have to live with it. But these teams going on these 10, 12, 14, 15, 16 play drives, like I said, I think you'd almost be better off, high risk, high reward type of style of defense. All right, let's talk to our pal Ellis. Speaking to Tennessee, that's where he's at this morning. Good morning, Ellis.
Yeah, I'm up here with all the hillbillies there, Gary.
Are they talking some smack? Are they confident? Are they nervous?
No, they have been quiet.
Yeah.
Now they are nervous. I had one to text me yesterday morning and tell me, he goes, "Y'all will beat us." And usually you don't hear that, but so that means they're kind of worried right now.
Well, like we said, they've been struggling the last couple of games too. So. You got, to be honest with you, I think you got a couple of fan bases, which is unusual, that both these fan bases, I think, are really nervous about this game.
Oh yeah, well, I'm concerned, but I ain't nervous.
Okay, so you feel pretty good.
Yeah, I feel pretty good.
All right.
What is it? One time they beat us in the last 17, 18 years.
Alabama now is 16-1 in the last 17 matchups.
That's all I got to say.
How about that,
the rest of the game.
And it was a crazy game 2 years ago to keep it from being 17 in a row. Crazy.
I was there.
Yeah.
But everybody's talking about running the ball, Gary Harris. No, we need to have them explosive plays. Our defense needs to step up, and we need to do the explosive plays. Just let Jalen Milroe do his thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, I certainly agree with you from the standpoint of, if you can run the ball, that's great. I like running the ball too, but if you got a chance to make a big play, you got to make it. I mean, you can't say, well, we want to not make big plays. Of course, you're going to make big plays, and this is an explosive offense, and it needs to be explosive. I mean, you got playmakers, you need to use them, and hopefully Kendrick Law's back. Man, this has been.
Oh man, I hope he's back.
Yeah, they need him. They need all those receivers.
Yes, all that we can get. But now the injury report, it won't come out till what, Friday?
I think it's Thursday, and maybe I think the first time it comes out, the participation report. But I'm not sure about that, but I'll keep an eye on it for sure.
And Jalen, is he going to be all right? You know,
well, they haven't even said that anything's wrong with him. I just thought, and I'm not the only one, I just thought there were a number of us that felt like in the second half of that game he wasn't moving like Jalen Milroe normally moves. I just didn't think he didn't look
that's what I've heard on the rest of the shows, and then talking to people like at the tailgate and everything.
He didn't look as fast. He didn't look as fluid. Even his throws didn't look as much zip on him. So I just kind of got the feeling that he was banged up a little bit, but nothing's been said about it. So we expect him to get, them to be careful with him this week and have him ready to go, on Saturday afternoon. You need him.
Yep. Saturday afternoon up there in Hillbilly Land.
That's right. They're going to be loud and proud, and all that orange will put knock your eyes out on it. So
yeah, I'm like the guy that's on the internet. We play every year when it gets around this time.
I'll tell you a funny story about that. The I Hate Tennessee guy. That guy that shot that interview, and I hate he never got the credit for it, was a guy named Nick Adam, who went on to become a sportscaster and now is actually in religion. But he was working for us. He was a WVUA 23 intern when he shot that interview years ago. And later it got posted on the internet, and he never got the credit for it. Somebody else kind of stole it, as they'll do, and put a logo on it. But, that kid worked for me that shot that interview, man.
I think you had interviewed him last year.
I had Nick on to talk about it. Yeah. He's a priest now. So, that's him. So, all right, Ellis, talk to you later in the week.
All right, yes, sir. Roll Tide.
Thank you. All right, we need to get to our final break. Joe down there in Dothan.
Awards and expert support. When you get a Dell PC with AI, it gives back. Shop now at Dell.com/deals.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
A beautiful fall day today. The sky's sunny, the high 69. Clear, very cool tonight, the low 41. For tomorrow, sunny with a high at 62. And Thursday, a sunny day. We'll probably have some frost early Thursday morning. The high Thursday afternoon, 67. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 63 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
The flagship station for Alabama Crimson Tide sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
54, welcome back into the Gary Harris Show Friday morning. We'll continue our Bama trivia giveaways presented by T-Town Menswear and T-Town Gallery University Mall. We're going to give away a Bama Tennessee print. You better believe it, on Friday. You'll want to tune in for that. 30 qualifiers last week for that beautiful Trent Richardson print that we gave away. Bama Tennessee print coming up on Friday. All right, right now let's jump out on the hotline and welcome in Joe from down in Dothan. Hey, Joe.
Hey, Gary. Thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
Real quick, I just wanted to input something on this. Everybody's talking about how poor Tennessee's defense, offense has struggled these last few weeks, but nobody's talking about their defense is good, Gary.
Very good.
That edge rusher they've got, Pierce, is going to be a problem. And what we have to avoid is I hear what Ellis is saying, but you've got to get these running backs involved somehow. You've got to sustain drives. Jalen cannot make it through the entire season. I saw him get up after one play in the South Carolina game, grimacing and holding his neck. He's already taken a beating. He's going to get injured if he keeps carrying the ball the way he the amount of times that he is. We've got to get the running backs involved. You can't get in second, third long against Tennessee. They'll eat us alive.
I think they're going to make an attempt to run the ball with the running backs. The key is you got to be successful with it when you do it, and that's right. That's the issue. Can they run it? If you run it on first down, you need to get a minimum of 3 yards. You really need to get 4 or 5. If you're running the ball and then all of a sudden you're second 8 or 9, then that's when you're talking about that defense is really going to have an advantageous position. So I'm with you. I want to see them run the football. The problem is they just haven't been consistent with running it with the backs. And that's why they used him. In the Georgia game, they used Milroe, and they absolutely gashed Georgia in the first half. So I'm with you, Joe. I hope they can get the running backs going. But if you run the ball, you got to be successful against this defense. Because if you're in second and third and long, they're going to eat you up.
Right, and you've got to be willing to commit to it. I felt like in the South Carolina game, we just completely abandoned it almost instantly. It was like 2 or 3 carries. It didn't go for much, and it's like, okay, we're just going to go back to throwing the football. You've got to be willing to stick to it to have some success.
Well, hopefully they will, because I do think it if you can dictate terms to the defense, it's going to help you. Of course, I haven't not mentioned Keenan Peely, the leading tackler for Tennessee. Their linebacker is out for the season with a ACL injury in his right knee against Florida, so that's disappointing for them, but obviously advantageous for Alabama. So,
yeah, that is big. That is big. I appreciate it, Gary.
All right, thank you, Joe. Appreciate the phone call, and that's perfect timing. Time to wrap it up. And we are going to be back tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Tomorrow morning, we're loaded. Matt Coulter on NASCAR. Joey Logano is in the playoff because Bowman is out because of a inspection. So it's kind of controversy there. Also, Dan Harrelson from Knoxville, USA Today writer there, is going to join us to talk about Alabama, Tennessee from the Tennessee perspective. And Larry the Music Man will join us as well. A reminder to catch me on TV tonight on WVUA 23. Again, I know we're not available everywhere. Hopefully, we'll have the situation fixed soon. Tider Insider TV tonight at 6:30 with Rodney Orr. And as I said, back here tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. For Chase Brumfeld, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for listening. Have a great day, everybody. T-Town Sports Daily is coming up next.